A new era is upon us. Tangent PropTech unites founders, real estate and VC investors, urban leaders, and passionate creators who are improving our communities and cities. Join venture capitalists Jeffrey Berman and Zach Aarons and PropTech entrepreneur Edward Cohen, that's me, to learn about housing innovation, the future of work, and climate tech. We examine these themes through interviews and conversations with PropTech CEOs, real estate owners and operators, and venture investors, and how we can leverage tech and collaboration to help solve the housing crisis, figure out the future of work, and how to decarbonize the built environment. If you would like to get your company's or organization's mission featured on Tangent, email us at tangentcommunity@gmail.com. Hi, I'm Edward Cohen. Welcome to Tangent. Today on Tangent, we have Julie Kheyfets, CEO of Block Renovation, home and apartment renovations done right. Hi, Julie. Where does this podcast find you?
Hi, Edward. Thanks for having me. I'm calling in from New York.
New York City, where renovations are the easiest you've ever done.
That's right. No place easier than New York.
Julie, what's wrong with home renovations?
Edward, so many things are challenging about home renovations. You know, the reason I got into this space was because I was so shocked to find an industry where Americans spend about $500 billion every year, and still nearly everyone has a nightmare of an experience. Anyone who's ever renovated probably has a horror story about their renovation. And, you know, it's not only homeowners who have challenging experiences, it's also contractors. So on the one hand, you have homeowners who are trying to figure out what to do with their space, what trade-offs to make, how much things cost, where to even begin, how to find a contractor they can trust. On the other side, you have contractors who could be great builders, but they're also doing everything to run their business. They're small mom and pops often. They're trying to put out fires out in the field. Oh, the plumber didn't show up here. Oh, tile showed up damage there. They're trying to communicate with homeowners. They're trying to make payroll and keep business flowing. It's a struggle for everybody. And every project is different, which doesn't make it any easier.
Yeah, no, you list some of very good and important pain points there. And you coming from the AI world with Tractable, which delivers ultra precise damage assessment for cars. I mean, now you come and you lead Block. So, you know, what brought you into the housing renovation space?
Yeah, the size of the problem really is what brought me in. I really was so surprised to find how difficult still it was to renovate, and also how little technology there was in the space. It's really hard to name a single large technology platform that serves renovators. Well, that's because there is no single large public company that does that. Part of that speaks to how inherently hard the problem of renovation is. It's interesting to compare it to new construction, for example. With new construction, you have maybe a piece of land that is more or less a blank slate. You have zoning regulations and other things, but you could build ground up. Whereas with renovation, you have a home that's probably been there for decades, has had work done to it, some of which was permitted, maybe it's in the books. Some of it might have been unpermitted. You open up walls, you find unforeseen conditions. Every renovation is its own journey. And so it's really hard to build scalable solutions for. But the opportunity to do that and to solve some of these challenges with technology and with AI, that's what brought me in.
Fascinating and inspiring, certainly. So you mentioned trust, which is at the very core of not only everything we do in real estate, but also within marketplaces. So how does Block Renovation solve these trust issues for investors and homeowners that are looking for reliable, predictable, quality renovations for their assets?
Yeah, good question. So we do two things to help build trust. The first is we offer AI tools to homeowners, investors that help them to figure out their design, their scope of work, their budget in a personalized way. You know, if you're doing a large project, let's say a $250,000 gut remodel, then you can afford an architect. You pay that architect maybe $20,000. That architect takes you by the hand and helps you to figure out what to do with the space, what it should look like, what trade-offs to make, how much it'll cost. But if you're doing a $50,000 renovation, even a $100,000 renovation, it doesn't really make sense to go and pay another five figures to an architect. And so homeowners are on their own, or they're relying on contractors. And we all know that trust between homeowners and contractors often isn't perfect. So with AI tools that help with renovation planning, design, budgeting, homeowners have an objective, personalized source of guidance that's very affordable. That's one piece. The other piece is transparent data. So for homeowners who use our tools to plan their renovations, they can then go on to hire a contractor from our marketplace. Our marketplace rests on a network of vetted contractors, and we've vetted every single one of these contractors by hand. So we have checked the quality of their work, their licensing, their insurance requirements, their standard and standing with the Department of Buildings. And as homeowners meet contractors and as they get proposals and estimates from these contractors, they also get a lot of transparent data. So they see every project that this contractor has done. How much did it end up costing versus the initial estimate? How long did it take? How satisfied was the homeowner? What were the final results? And with that transparency, homeowners can hire confidently.
Super cool. Let's dive in a little more into this contractor vetting process, because that seems to be a secret sauce and also the eternal conundrum. Yes, you can have a word of mouth recommendation of someone that had a good experience, but like you said, your home and your asset is very different than the one they did before, and the nature of the renovation is never going to be the same. So you say that you only accept around 7% of contractors who apply to your platform. So what makes the cut?
That's right. We are very selective because we want to confidently offer the best of the best to our homeowners. So to make that 7% to be accepted into our contractor network, you have to meet a couple of things. Baseline is, of course, you have to be licensed and insured. So you need to have the right licenses in the zip codes, in the counties, municipalities where you work. You need to have the right insurance requirements. Insurance requirements differ a lot. And you take New York City, every building is going to have a different level of insurance that it requires for a contractor to work on apartments in that building. So we vet that. We deeply vet quality. And this is something that homeowners really struggle to vet on their own because they don't know what good workmanship looks like. So we do site visits with contractors, either physically, we put hands on their work, or virtually over video calls to really see things like tile, grout lines. How precise are they? Carpentry, what does that look like? We look at any history of violations with the Department of Buildings. We do not want contractors who do work under the table, cut corners. We look at any other violations, civil lawsuits. We want to make sure the contractors have a clean record, are doing all work above board. We also see how they communicate with us. So are they professional? Are they timely? Are they responsive? We want to make sure that they're not just great builders, but also that they are great communicators and that they will deliver a great experience to homeowners.
That's so interesting, and it sounds so obvious, but yet so hard to achieve communication, right? And I think on one hand, humans, we've made it that we can communicate now with everyone at all times, anywhere in the world, yet somehow we don't become exponentially better at it the more communication channels we have, whether it be text-based, voice, or video. It's still the eternal issue. And that comes with setting the right expectations with the renovations that your clients, investors, and homeowners are hoping to make. Support for this episode comes from Market Stadium. How should you choose the next real estate market to invest in? Should you keep investing in the same metro area? Will Las Vegas, Buffalo, and Charlotte live up to the hype? These are some of the fundamental questions multifamily and single-family investors are thinking about. That's where Market Stadium comes in. Market Stadium is your one-stop real estate data platform that optimizes every process of multifamily and single-family market analysis. Market Stadium helps accelerate 4 essential steps in the real estate investment process, including macro market selection, initial market screening, deep dive location analysis, and investment presentation. Their platform also helps real estate investors understand how markets have performed until now and how markets will grow in the future. Market Stadium also provides climate scores for every market to analyze climate risk from floods, earthquakes, wildfires, and more, so you can de-risk your investments. To learn more and supercharge your multifamily or single-family investment market analysis, book a demo at marketstadium.com. That's marketstadium.com. Talk about more about AI. You claim that you put an AI architect in every investor and homeowner's pocket. So what does that actually look like?
Yeah, really good question. What we're building would not have been possible even 2 years ago because AI capabilities just weren't there. When I was at Tractable, my last company, so as you mentioned, we built proprietary AI to assess vehicle damage. At that point, you were building AI from the ground up to recognize pixel by pixel what was in a photograph. So for example, if we were building AI to assess damage to a car hood, well, first we had to build a model to recognize the hood. Because to the AI, this is just a bunch of pixels. To you and me, you're like, oh, well, that's a car and that's the front of it and that's the hood. So you had to really build AI layer by layer. Today, with foundation models, that's very easy. You can take an off-the-shelf classifier, a classification model from Amazon, and it'll say, oh, yeah, that's a hood. And then you build more proprietary models that have insights that are not that easy to build. So for us, we looked at how designers and architects work with homeowners. One thing we discovered was that homeowners who are renovating or planning a renovation, they have very strong feelings on what they want, but they struggle to articulate it from scratch. So for example, if you are doing a bathroom and I show you one bathroom that's white and bright and another bathroom that's dark and moody and it's blue and green, you're going to love one of those and you're going to hate the other one. And that's different for every person. But people actually struggle to articulate that. And the way that architects kind of help people to identify those preferences is by showing them stimuli. They say, like, do you like this one or this one? Oh, you like this one. How about a couple more versions of this one? But the thing is, for architects, the cycles to do that are multiple weeks because, okay, you like this one, and I want to show you a couple more versions. Let me go back, re-render it in some kind of CAD system, show you new renders. That cycle is super slow. It could take weeks for every rep. With foundation models in AI, we can do that in seconds. The AI can show you two bathrooms. Okay, you like white bathrooms? We'll show you more white bathrooms very, very quickly. And so with AI, we can put that capability into a homeowner's hands essentially for free instead of paying for 5 figures, and also let them do it in seconds and plan that entire renovation in minutes instead of taking years browsing online or months working with an architect.
That's exciting and also gives people confidence, right? That you'll have a solution for them, regardless of what their expectations are, whether it be realistic or not. So you're, expanding market by market, whether it be homeowners that are looking to move across different jurisdictions, different states, or investors that are acquiring homes and renovating them across different locations. What's your playbook for growth and how do you select where to grow? Where are you operating today?
So we're in 10 markets today. So we're in New York, Boston, San Francisco, LA, DC. We just in the fall opened up Chicago, Greater Philadelphia, Connecticut. And as you can tell, we really go city by city. The reason for that is that we recognize that renovations are a very hyper-local business. What consumers want in New York is very different from what they want in LA, different preferences, different lifestyles. And the same thing with the contractor dynamics. So the market dynamics and the availability of supply or contractors, super different city by city. So we get to know each market in depth to be able to serve that market, both the homeowners and the contractors well. To your question about how we select cities, we look at a couple things. So we look at where there is demand. And for that, you can use metrics like searches for renovations, for example, or permits or spend. We look at demographics, so home ownership rates. In a market where everybody rents, there will be fewer renovations because people don't really invest in their rentals in the same way they invest in what they purchase. We look at housing stock as well. So we look at markets that might have older housing that is more in need of renovation. Places like maybe Sarasota, where you have a lot of new builds, well, they're not going to be ready to renovate for another 10 years. And certainly there are some older houses there that could benefit from renovation. But in a market where you have, let's say, a greater portion of new builds, there's less need to remodel. So those are some of the factors we take a look at.
That's interesting. You mentioned a couple of West Coast locations, a lot Northeast focus. Interesting that the popular institutional single-family rental markets are not ones that you have targeted so far. Are you planning to target those, or is there a reason why you've not prioritized those so far?
And you're thinking about institutional investors doing multifamily
Or
or
single
single
family
home
rentals.
rentals.
Yeah, I'm like talking the Sun Belt,
Yeah.
talking about the Atlantas, the Carolinas, where there's been a lot of activity, even Florida, although probably renovations in Florida has a whole different ballgame than the Northeast. But yeah, just curious why.
I would say renovating a home to rent it out versus renovating to live in it are two very different endeavors. If you're renovating a home to rent it out, what you're looking for is ROI. You're basically saying, what can I put in at a reasonable cost? You're not going for high-end finishes. You are going for very standard design choices. You're going for the white subway tile, the very simple fixtures. You're not going for anything crazy or very idiosyncratic. You want it to appeal to as many people as possible. And then you want it to live through as many rental cycles as possible. If you're renovating to live in it, you're really thinking about your own needs. And those needs are both functional needs and design needs. Functional needs, maybe your family is growing, you need to make more space, you need to add a bedroom. Maybe you love to cook and host, you need more counter space in your kitchen, you add an island. Design needs, the way it looks, that can be very idiosyncratic. If I look at the projects that people are doing on our platform, I can predict pretty well if it's for a rental or for something where the person will actually live in the space. So, they're just two very different approaches to renovation.
Makes sense. Makes sense. How is the rise of fixer-upper acquisitions shaping Block strategy?
Yeah, we're definitely seeing with the rise of fixer-uppers, more people going after big gut remodels, places where people have to add whole rooms, sometimes whole floors to the space. Those are much more complex projects. They're much harder to permit. You need structural engineers involved. And, if you think homeowners are overwhelmed renovating a single bathroom in New York, imagine adding a floor to a house and how complex that is. So what we're seeing is homeowners having to take on more and more complex projects because those are the only homes they can afford to buy, and really needing the guidance to do that the right way.
Interesting. Let's talk a bit more about, just growth and the industry trends. Gen Xers now outspend boomers, and millennials' renovation budgets have doubled since 2020. There seems to be more focus on energy efficiency, sustainability, and home automation. Tell us what's, driving renovation demand. What's going to be driving it for the next couple of years?
Yeah, I really love to think about this because there are some forces that are just immutable in the industry. Today boomers still hold a ton of real estate. They're still driving a lot of renovation demand, but they're also aging out, which means that millennials not only are buying more homes, they're also inheriting more homes, and they need to adapt their homes to their needs. Some of these homes actually haven't been renovated, sometimes in decades. And as millennials inherit them, they're trying to figure out what to do with them. I think we all know millennials are stereotypically a neurotic generation that researches everything, does everything online, looks for the data, does things in transparent ways. And the idea of just hiring your uncle's contractor is very off-putting to a lot of people. They want to know the stranger that they're going to invite into their home who's going to do this job. And that's one of the things that really inspired us to double down on this. Again, seeing so little technology in the space, seeing so much being done offline in a space where trust is so broken. As millennials come to be bigger and bigger spenders for remodeling projects, it just made so much sense from a generational point of view.
Talk about some of the mistakes, homeowners and investors make when doing renovations. What's one thing people get wrong when they go through the process?
One thing that's a little bit painful to see is a lot of people kind of got used to this trope of the crooked contractor. And there are contractors out there who are bad guys. That's totally out there. But there are also 600,000 contractors in the United States. And there are also plenty of contractors who are good guys and who are professional and who are just running good businesses. And some people come in and they're already on the defensive. Their guard is up and they try to micromanage the contractor and say, well, why did you put this here? Why did you come at 10 a.m. versus 9 a.m. today? Why didn't your electrician show up? And that just very quickly creates a hostile relationship between the homeowner and the contractor. And often they're just speaking different languages. The contractor has a bit more experience, maybe is not the best communicator, but has been in the industry for a while. The homeowner is just really nervous and is trying to protect themselves, and sometimes can become maybe difficult to work with. But if you start a relationship with this kind of suspicion and being defensive, it poisons the well very quickly. And it can contribute to a bad experience for everybody. So, I would say if you're going to hire somebody, do your diligence up front. So get references, make sure you deeply understand who you're working with, make sure you are clearly aligned on the expectations. So what's the scope of work? What will the output be? Also, how will you work together? sometimes there will be no crew on site. That's not because the contractor is slacking off. It's because they're waiting for tile to arrive, and it doesn't make sense for the tile guy to be there until the tile is there. So make sure to have that communication, but try to start with trust versus starting with suspicion and hostility.
Great advice. And also, I think I read somewhere that 12% of renovations end up in divorce. And you also mentioned the, nature of the sometimes adversarial feel between the homeowner and the contractor. And I wonder, in your view, just is that relationship all else equal in a better spot than like a landlord and renter relationship these days?
Mm,
How would you compare those?
yeah.
Definitely not apples to apples, but how would you compare those?
Very interesting question. There are some similarities for sure. You are almost forced to coexist. So if you're living in a rental, you're stuck with your landlord for a while. The same thing with a contractor. So once you start the project, somebody comes in, they knock down your wall, you're kind of stuck with them. Like, yes, you could fire them and find a new contractor. Contractors don't want to take on projects that somebody else began, but you're kind of stuck with this person. So that's a similarity. It feels like there's a power imbalance. The landlord knows more than you, the contractor knows more than you. It's very personal because it's your home, it's your space. That's similar as well. Let's see. Yeah, what's different? I guess with a landlord, it's more of an ongoing relationship for a longer period of time, typically. And so hopefully you have a little bit more time and a little bit more incentive to make things work. With a contractor, what's challenging sometimes is that, the contractor is juggling a lot of jobs and you are one, but not the only project that they're working on. And for you, you hope to have them out of your house as quickly as possible. And so some people get on both sides a little bit short-sighted. They don't invest in that relationship very much and they just try to kind of survive through it. So yeah, there are definitely some parallels.
This episode is brought to you in collaboration with Blueprint, the future of real estate. A few weeks ago, in September, Jeff and I participated in the largest, most global gathering of industry leaders and innovators leading the charge in changing the built environment, from construction to transaction, for 3 days of networking, learning, and ecosystem advancement in Las Vegas. With trillions of dollars of assets and the best global innovators under one roof, the future of the built world happens at Blueprint. Blueprint 2025 will take place at the Venetian Las Vegas from September 16th to 18th. Learn more and join the interest list at blueprintvegas.com. That's blueprintvegas.com. See y'all there.
Leading with trust, I think, is key. But what advice would you recommend homeowners hoping to renovate, and what should they be paying attention for in 2025?
One thing that I find really interesting right now in the industry is that American homeowners hold record levels of home equity. So if you think about it, people have been paying off their mortgages because rates have been so high, nobody's moving, and housing prices are up. So Americans today hold about $35 trillion in home equity. What that means is you can take that home equity and you can borrow against it. So there are instruments like a HELOC, a home equity line of credit. There are equity-backed loans. And as rates begin to come down, homeowners are actually in a great position to borrow against the equity they have to finance renovations. Then, as the housing market begins to move again, you can actually come out on the other side with a better home that's worth more on the market, that you will be in a better position to sell if you were looking to move before. So I would say it's a better time than ever to actually finance renovations.
Interesting. Let's talk a bit more about just the business model and, how does Block make money?
Yeah, we wanted to keep it as simple as possible and really align incentives between ourselves, the homeowners, and the contractors. So homeowners can come on the platform, use our AI planning tools for free. They can meet contractors, get site visits, proposals, and support negotiating all for free. Contractors can get introduced to homeowners, pitch, and try to sell for free. The only time we make money is when a homeowner and a contractor decide to work together on Block. Then we take a cut. So everybody's incentives are aligned. Homeowners are trying to find contractors. Contractors are trying to find homeowners. We're trying to help them to find each other.
That's great. And because of the nature of hyper-localization, reminds me of my time at neighbor.com, the peer-to-peer storage market. Naturally very local. People on average would not rent a storage unit for their items or their vehicle, more than 3 to 5 mile radius from where they live or from where they work. So how do you tackle the issue of disintermediation?
I think disintermediation really comes down to, is there enough value on the platform compared to how much the platform charges? And there needs to be enough value to both sides. For us, both sides see the value of ongoing protection. Again, because trust is such an issue in the industry. So homeowners, they want to transact through the platform so they know that the contractor won't walk off the job. And contractors want to transact through the platform so they know that the homeowner is not going to withhold payment. And we help with all of those things. And that's the main reason that people stay on the platform.
Fascinating and critical. Everyone building a marketplace, whether it be a managed marketplace or a highly technical marketplace or high ticket marketplace, trust is at the core, and protection on both sides or three-side marketplace, depending which type, is at the very core of success for not only the platform but the users. Julie, collaboration superpower. If you could choose one person, historic or living, to do a partnership with, who would it be?
Yeah, oh, that's a good question. Do you want my fun answer or my practical answer?
Both.
Okay, I'll give you my fun answer first. So in my free time, when I'm not building Block, the main thing I do is run ultramarathons. And there is nothing like just getting out in the mountains, being on trails for hours and hours. So I would love to collaborate with Courtney Dauwalter, who is one of the best ultramarathon trail runners of all time. She just has amazing mental grit and perseverance. I think she's based in Colorado. So if we ever expand there, she could be our brand ambassador. Let's see.
Hold on, let me just clarify. An ultramarathon commonly ranges from 31 miles to 200 miles. Is that correct?
Those are the common distances. Yeah, the longest registered ultramarathon in the world is 5,000 kilometers. It's 3,100 miles. It's actually here in New York, but most ultras are between 50K and 200 miles.
That's quite a feat. How many have you done?
Somewhere between 12 and 15, probably. I'll do 2 or 3 a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
What listeners don't know is that Julie is running as we speak during this whole episode.
That would be impressive if I could stay still on video while running.
Talk about multitasker. And what's your practical answer?
Yeah, I think it'd be really interesting to partner with Brian Chesky and Airbnb.
Hell yes.
On the one hand, of course, they do housing and apartment rentals. And there's a lot we could do to help hosts really make their Airbnbs appealing to guests. I also just really respect how Airbnb took another market where trust was non existent. I mean, I think when Airbnb was first on the scene, people said, why would I let a stranger sleep in my house? That's crazy. And they created that trust. And I think it speaks to the power of technology to create trust. And, I admire that tremendously.
It's still crazy, but the trust is there.
Exactly.
A big fan of Brian Chesky here on the pod and Airbnb. I think the big issue that Block and you could help the Airbnb is that now the gap between the photographs and the actual homes is bigger. It's almost like in dating apps where it sometimes creates a culture, not for disappointment, but like everyone has, 3, 4, 5 good pictures. So like every home on Airbnb now has a ton of really good pictures. You get to the home, usually it's going to be pretty great, but the pictures were amazing. So Block, I'm sure, can make them up to par with the photos because we don't want to get worse photos.
Yeah, we can help hosts for sure keep their spaces up to date. That's easy to do.
Julie, where can homeowners and investors listening to Tangent learn more about Block and connect with you?
Yeah, you can find out more about us at blockrenovation.com. Try out our tools, come meet our contractors, and you can find me on LinkedIn.
Julie Kheyfets, CEO of Block Renovation, home and apartment renovations done right. Thank you so much for coming to Tangent today and sharing your company, your work, and your vision with us.
Thanks for having me. This was fun.
If you like what you heard, please subscribe, rate, and review Tangent, and share the show with a friend. This episode is produced by me, Edward Cohen. Thanks for listening to Tangent PropTech, and remember, collaboration is our superpower. So stay curious and always be learning.